Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to The Law. This is your legal light and health law. And this afternoon, we are asking and teaching you what the Electoral Commission officers are not allowed to do on election day. As you move out tomorrow to cast your ballots, what are the EC officers not allowed by law to do? You get to know that shortly. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini.
I think it's a nice judicial posture in terms of telling citizens, and I think it's a good thing. Tell citizens that no, presidential petitions, are key to the governance of the country. Any uncertainty about who is the president can cause chaos and affect our governance. So even though the Constitution is giving you 21 days within which to file your petition, we think that if you do it within 7 days. So I don't think it is a kind of like a mandatory thing that they are saying. Right. And as Justice Joche pointed out, it's a proposal. We need specific timelines to cure, and luckily for us, CI 16 as amended by CI 74 gives the Supreme Court the discretion to actually abridge time. So nothing prevents the Supreme Court as part of its case management powers from saying that, look, this hearing is going to take only 5 days. It's going to take only 6 days. Petitioners, I'm giving you 3 days. Respondents, I'm giving you 3 days. That is it.
All right.
So the Supreme Court can do that. So once the EC has published an instrument saying that this person has been elected president of Ghana, then you have 21 days as a citizen of Ghana to bring an election petition. Outside of that, you don't have any case. I think that is why the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, thought that the 21 days were a good enough period to allow the petitioner to look at the evidence available and decide whether he or she has a good case. And I think we mustn't rush petitioners in going into court, because sometimes initially you think that you have a case, but after you have slept over, reflected over the matter, then you realize that, oh, what I thought was a good case actually doesn't have any merit. So I think as much as possible, maybe we should try to maintain or respect the 21-day timeline. We have enough legal tools within these rules to be able to expedite trial. There is a provision in CI 74 that gives the Supreme Court the mandate to abridge time. So nothing prevents the Supreme Court from saying that even though by the rules, you respondent, you are supposed to file your answer within these number of days. I'm giving you 3 days. I'm giving you 2 days. Or cross-examination is going to be limited to just 2 days per party, and that is it.
You're welcome back. So that's Dr. Abdulaziz Bamba, who is senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School. And last week, he was here to take us through the new thing that the Supreme Court has set itself to do should there be a presidential election petition. This time, as you know, they have set the rules to deal with such a petition expeditiously. And they will deal with it within 42 days, instead of what happened to us in 2012. During 2013, we spent 8 months of that year dealing with one election petition. So that's what Dr. Bassett Bamba educated us about. Today, and you know, the week before last, we dealt with the do's and don'ts, what you are supposed to know so you don't do on election day. We took you through a number of things. Today, we are turning our attention to the election EC officers. Day 2, what are they not allowed by law to do? In due course, we'll open the phone line so that you join us, the Zoom, so that you can join us. with any concerns or questions that you have. So what EC officers should not do. I'm very glad to have joining me Mrs. Rhoda Osei-Afo, who is team lead for elections at CODEO, at the CODEO Secretariat. Thank you very much for making the time to join us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Right. So, first off, yesterday on Newsfile, we had you give us some very, very interesting perspectives about some of the challenges that voters are likely to encounter. The Electoral Commission has already announced that it does not intend to supply face masks, even though it has provided a condition that if you don't have a face mask, you'll not be allowed to participate in the process. And you brought us a very creative way that people should approach the process, which is even backed by law, that we all don't seem to have paid attention to. So what should I do if I don't have a face mask and I'm going to vote tomorrow?
Thank you very much. And it's important you are bringing this issue up again, especially when we have a few hours to go.
Right.
But to every voter, I think the message is quite clear. There's a law in place that specifically states that you must wear a mask when going into a public place.
Right.
On election day, at the voting center or the polling station you are voting, this is a public place. Mm-hmm. And the Electoral Commission also is requiring all of us to put on our mask. It's not just the voters, the poll officials as well are supposed to put on their mask. But I think the question that has come up is the issue of the cost and whether people can afford it. And that is where I was making the suggestion that as much as possible, we should all look into our closets, look into our clothes and see if there's anything that we can use to cover our nose, cover our mouths safely. Something neat. It can be a handkerchief, a headgear, a piece of cloth, anything that can comfortably cover your nose and your mouth.
Right. So by the provision of law, what is known as the Imposition of Restrictions Act, Parliament empowered our president to make executive instruments which have the backing of law. And President made an executive instrument saying that you cannot go into a public place without wearing a face mask, face shield, or face covering. Face covering. And the law says what is required is for you to have your nose and your mouth covered.
Precisely.
So you are saying for those who clearly cannot afford a mask, there's a way out. So don't sit home and say, I don't have a mask, so I can't go.
At all. I think we shouldn't be fixated on what we typically see as a mask, which is something similar to what you are wearing.
Right.
But the essence is that you want to protect yourself in a sense that whatever is coming from your nose or from your mouth is not, I mean, you are not getting it from somebody is not also transmitting it to you. So essentially, you are protecting yourself, you are also protecting others. But let's get something that can safely help us to do this.
Right.
I think that's the essence.
So you can take any piece of cloth, very nice, neat, because you don't want to also, by putting on a cloth, get yourself any disease. So any piece of cloth. It could be your handkerchief, like you said.
Sure.
So it could be your handkerchief. Get a clean pair of handkerchief. Tie it around your nose and mouth. The law's requirement is that you cover your nose, cover your mouth. That's all. So now that we know that it is actually the law that says we should use face masks, face shield, or any face covering. What if I go to the polling station and an EC officer tells me, you don't have a mask, so go away?
Essentially, they are applying the rules that have been provided by the Electoral Commission. The point is that your right to vote is there. You just have to put on a mask and come to the polling station to be able to exercise that right. So essentially, they just want you to do what is right, what is healthy and safe for yourself and for the rest of the voters who will be at the polling station.
So what I mean by my understanding of the law then is that the law says I can use a face mask, I can use a face shield, and I can also use any face covering. Which can include my handkerchief, which can include a cloth. If someone is in a village somewhere where they say, I can't find a cloth immediately, but I can find this, leaf that can nicely cover my nose and my face. That should be acceptable.
That's quite interesting. I think we probably are going into the domain of science and the health sciences. Right. What is protective enough for you? Is that going to do the trick? Is that going to work for you if you are putting on something like that? So as much as possible, you are also looking at something that is effective in achieving the objective of the law, which is that you have to be protected, you have to be safe.
Right. Okay. Now, what it therefore means is that as you go out tomorrow to vote, if you don't have a face mask, if you don't have a face shield, you can use any face covering. The law says any face covering. So you can use anything that covers your nose and covers your mouth. That's the most important. And an election officer, presiding officer, polling agent, or whoever is not supposed to oppose you and turn you away. When they do that, they are breaking the law. Do you get the sense that the Electoral Commission has educated its officers enough to know that the law actually allows people to use any face covering?
Indeed, I think that is where there can be challenges when people decide to determine which one is an acceptable form of protection and which one isn't. But yesterday on the show on Newsfile, I think Dr. Kwaku Sribo was quite clear that they had sent this information to their officials, and our expectation is that they are duly informed and they are going to do what is right.
Right. The EC, as we understand, is going to organize perhaps a very last press conference before we go for the election tomorrow. So the expectation will be that this very, afternoon, they will take advantage of the situation. If what we did yesterday on Newsfile was to have brought this to their attention a lot more clearly, then the expectation will be that they would get their officers to understand that they are not supposed to turn away anybody who comes with any face covering other than a face mask. So thank you so very much. Now, let's see. There is also the concern about the ballot paper that you are handed when you go to vote. Is supposed to have the stamp of the EC at the back of it. If that stamp is not there, then that ballot is invalid. So even when you thumbprint it, it will not be counted. Sure. Whose fault will it be if I receive the ballot paper and it is not thumbprinted? Because they are supposed to do it.
So yes, first of all, the polling stations are supposed to have their own unique validating stamps, which essentially validate a ballot paper. Right. And so there's a duty, it's the duty of the poll officials to make sure that every ballot that is issued out to a voter has that validating stamp. So that is the work of the officials. On our part, we also have a responsibility as voters of ensuring or checking to see if indeed the mark is there or the stamp is there. Otherwise, during counting or during sorting, they are going to reject your ballot because that constitutes a ground for rejection of your ballot.
All right. So let's clearly understand that. And I just wanted to refer to the law on what you have to wear in the first place. Now, in the EI as passed by the President, it says that a person shall wear a face mask, face shield, or any other face covering that covers his or her nose and mouth completely when that person is in a public place or leaving or returning to his or her place of abode. But if you fail to do that, the imposition of restrictions law also has punishment for you. If you don't do it, it says you are liable to summary conviction if you are found guilty to a fine of not less than 1,000 penalty units and not more than 5,000 penalty units. So we are talking about 12,000 cedis or 60,000 cedis maximum, and not or to a term of imprisonment of not less than 4 years and not less than 4 years and not more than 10 years. Okay, so you should know that presently that's the law. People are going around violating it, but nobody is acting. But the EC says want to help the state to enforce it. Don't get into that in the first place. Now, you do a lot of work, and as we know, CODEO is deploying as many as over 4,000 people onto the field to monitor the elections. What are some of the things that you know that the EC officers are not supposed to do that some may be tempted to do? Help us to know some of them.
Thank you for that. I think we can discuss that around the processes for voting, starting with the opening and setup. So first of all, the poll officials have a responsibility of making sure that polling stations are located at places that are easily accessible to every voter, especially people in certain vulnerable circumstances, people with mobility challenges. So their guidelines are quite clear that you cannot locate a polling station at, say, on a veranda, on a staircase, or across a gutter. On a staircase or across a gutter. But even apart from these, any other place that will have present some challenges for certain categories of people to access the polling station. Apart from that, you're supposed to put notices to direct people so that people know that this is where voting is going to take place or is taking place. Now, on election day, in the morning, during setup, they have a duty to all voters who are around. This is the transparency provision that before you even close the ballot box, we begin to put our ballots into it. We all must know whether the ballot box is empty or not. So there's an obligation for them to show it to be empty to anyone who may be around, voters in queue, for you to know that indeed this is an empty box that we are all now going to start a process with. Then moving into the actual starting of the processes, so the expectation is that voting will start at 7 a.m. But in the morning, whatever time people get to the polling station, if you go to the polling station and you don't have, say, your voter ID card, or you don't have, say, the slip that they gave you during voter registration exercise, for some reason you've lost it, they are not supposed to deny you from voting to the extent that they are able to identify you in the register. So you may not have your slip. Ideally, you should have your voter ID card or a slip. It facilitates the processes of voting. But if for some reasons you don't have it, and there could be several reasons why people may not have it, you are not supposed to be denied that right of voting, and so they're supposed to help you locate your name. Also, again, if you're able to provide them your correct name that you use for the registration. Then you're supposed to go through verification. That the law is clear. Every voter must go through verification. Without verification, nobody has to vote. And so it's important that we all check to see if this is being done. And by verification, they are looking at first biometric verification, where everybody has to place their finger on the biometric verification devices or device at the particular polling station you are voting. the device is supposed to verify you. If for some reason it's unable to verify you, the poll officials this time around are supposed to take a photograph of you and then check to see if there's a match for you, since already they have captured your photograph in their database. Once that is done, then you're supposed to proceed. If that is also not successful, you are still supposed to vote, and the manual verification is the process that you are supposed to use to process you.
Right.
So that is important. No person can take part in the voting process if they are not on the register, if they are not verified.
Right. So the first point that you made, I just wanted to read the law to you so that you know that she's not just talking from like advice, but it is the law that she was talking about. Now, the law that we are using for the 2020 elections, the regulations, is known as Public Elections Regulation 2020 CI 127, and Regulation 31 talks about sealing of the ballot boxes. It says that the presiding officer is the officer in charge of the polling station. The polling station you will go, there's one person from the Electoral Commission who is in charge. That person is the presiding officer. So anytime you have any problem within the polling station and you need help, the person to talk to ask for is the presiding officer. So the law says the presiding officer shall immediately before the commencement of the poll, before the poll starts at 7 a.m., show the transparent ballot boxes to the persons present at the polling station so that they can verify that the ballot boxes are empty. Show it to all of you who are there so that you can verify that the box is empty. Thereafter, he will close the ballot boxes and place a seal on them in a manner to prevent the ballot boxes from being opened without breaking the seal, and then place the ballot boxes in the full view of the public for the receipt of ballot papers. The issue about the seal, can you explain that one? Seal that does not allow for it to be broken.
Sure. We know that in our electoral environment, there are often all manner of suspicion about almost everything. And so we want to be sure that at any point in time, whatever is in the ballot box is really what is supposed to be in the ballot box.
That's right.
Now, at the point they are showing the ballot box to be empty, when they are closing it, the EC official or the presiding officer is supposed to put the seal of the commission on that. Essentially, they are locking the box.
Exactly.
So that nobody can go into the booth and say pick up some ballots from their pocket or...
Before you can access it, you must break it.
Exactly. And then, even apart from the poll officials, the party agents also have that opportunity to also put their seals on it so that at the time that voting is closing, they are there to verify that indeed the seals have not been tampered with.
Okay.
Things were as they were in the morning, they are still the same, and that we have confidence that the processes are fair.
And after that, you actually spoke about the identification and verification of the voter. So what Mrs. Rhoda Osafol is taking us through, it's just the way the law is expecting you to behave, not particularly you, the election officers to behave. So she spoke about the opening of the box and all of that. Then she came to the identification and verification of the voter. If you went there, as she said, without your ID, voter's ID, you must supposed to go there with one. But supposing you lost it today, so you didn't have time for a replacement to be done for you. As the Electoral Commission has announced, you can still vote. And as Rhoda said, once your name is on the register, you can vote. You go there, they are not supposed to turn you away, but they will look through the register, they will identify your name, and then you go through the processes of verification, and then you will be able to cast your ballot. Now, even before we proceed, after treating the question of the mask and referring to the ingenuity that requires just any face covering, I am reminded of the 13,000 people on the special voters list who were supposed to have voted on 1st of December. They were part of over a million who were supposed to vote and couldn't vote. So these 13,000 people, some of them are saying that they may go tomorrow and vote. The law in this same law says a person whose name is transferred to the special voters list shall not vote on election day. But it looks like there can be a way around it. Can you assist us?
So, yeah, I mean, once you transfer your vote, essentially you're supposed to be on what they call the absent or absentee voters list.
That's right.
Which means that at the polling station where you originally registered, you are now an absentee voter because you've already transferred your vote to another place.
Right.
And so you cannot vote at this particular place or polling station, your original polling station. Now, what has happened, I think there are two things that we need to get. First of all, if people applied for transfer, there are two things. Either they were successful or they were not successful. If they were successful, then the assumption is that their names will be on the absentee voters list at the original place, and then they will be on the special voting list. If they weren't, then the expectation is that the name will remain at the original place. So I think then this means that they should be able to vote at the original polling station. The difficulty will be for people who have to be on duty, say, away from places where they are originally registered or they are supposed to be voting. What will be the challenges? I mean, the difficulties that they may encounter. Practically, would they be able to vote while also on deployment on election day? So that's the challenge that I think the security agencies working with the commission have to address if already they haven't done that.
Right. So once again, by the law, in section 23, regulation 23, sub-regulation 8, if you gave your name to be a special voter and you didn't turn up to vote on the 1st of December, you have lost your vote. But something may have happened. It could have happened that your name was not transferred. Therefore, it is still on the main voters list. Now, you can go to the EC website, or you can use their USSD shortcode. Is it *711 hash? Then you key in your details, your voter identification number. It will tell you whether you are on the main voters list still, so you can go to the polling station and vote tomorrow. But if your name was transferred, you have lost it.
Definitely. I mean, there are people who didn't vote. If you didn't show up to vote and your name was on the special voting list, no, you have lost your right to vote.
You have lost
you cannot. I was speaking to people who, for some reason, didn't see their names on the voting, the special voting list.
Okay. All right. We are going to go through quite a number of other things, particularly what the EC officers are not supposed to do, and if they do, what the sanctions are according to law. I can see that 3 people have joined us. So I mention your name, then you unmute before you join us. Don't go straight away to join. Martin, you have already unmuted. Let's hear you.
Okay, thank you, Samson. Yeah, I'm Martin, and I've been watching you this morning. And I've been following the JoyNews election headquarters all the time. Stay here in the United States. We just finished our elections and then the issues around it. And what I'm saying is that about the EC officers shouldn't do on the election day. My point is the issue officers shouldn't, number one, being biased. They should not be biased to any other political party. And they should stand on their grounds. They should not be allowed themselves to be intimidated by any political party agents on the election day. They should be fair and firm. And they should not be allowed to be detected to by any political party agents on the ground. If there's any issue arises out of a misunderstanding or the voter's name or any other thing on the list, I think there's laid down regulations and rules that govern these elections. So the EC, together with the stakeholders around, including the security officer on the ground, should come together to resolve this issue. They should not allow, because if the EC officers on the ground allow themselves to be intimidated by the political party agents or shown bias to any of the political parties, I think there's going to be a problem on the police stations. So my point is that I think so far so good. I've been following all the issues with regard to all these elections, and I think that you see so far I've been on top of every issue. So the last thing that we are expecting from tomorrow on is that they should continue to be fair and firm based on the law, as you have been reading.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for joining us from the US. Next, I can have Isaac. And then after Isaac, there's Priscilla. So, Isaac, unmute and join us. Martin, please mute your microphone. Yes, Isaac, unmute and let's hear you. Okay, we just lost Isaac. Priscilla was there. Where's Priscilla? Okay, Priscilla, Isaac, you can come back with your questions. And Martin was spot on. You are there to do an impartial and neutral job. You are actually a neutral party as an EC officer. And you are supposed to do an impartial job. Don't try to be unnecessarily dictated to wrongly, and don't try to exhibit any bias. You may have your own party. There's nothing wrong with it. You actually are supposed to vote yourself. You vote for somebody as an EC officer. But you actually do not have to be a non-party person to be impartial. That's one of the misunderstandings, that miseducation that we have in this country. We think that you must be neutral to be impartial. You don't have to. You can be an MPP person, you can be an NDC person, but you still can be impartial, because that's what your job requires of you. Okay, so Rhoda, there's the aspect about the presiding officer having the power to determine who and how many people he will admit to the polling station at one time. Please help us so that we don't get into trouble and they too don't get into trouble. What exactly is their duty here?
All right, so essentially, I mean, if you look at the CI 127, the presiding officers, they have quite a lot of powers. They are in charge of the polling stations, and they have a lot of control, but they are supposed to, polls are supposed to open. Essentially, if you look at the
Regulation 29.
Yes. So first of all, poll is supposed to open 7 a.m. in the morning and then close at 5 p.m. However, if people are in queue at 5 p.m., as we often know, you cannot disallow them from taking part in voting. So far as they are in voting in the queue, they're supposed to be allowed to vote. That is why.
So if you are in the queue before the time hits, the clock hits 5. You are qualified to stay there.
And usually after 5, the police officer on duty at that particular polling station will stand behind the last person in queue to make sure that no other person comes to join the queue again. So you have a right to exercise. 1
second after 5 p.m., you cannot be allowed to join the queue. If they allow you to join the queue, they are actually breaking the law.
Precisely.
Because the law says they shall not allow you. Okay.
And they also, if they violate the provisions, you know, there are sanctions also for them.
Right.
But I think the point is that you have a right, but that right has to be exercised between these hours, 7 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Right.
The other thing is that presiding officers too, they cannot decide to close the polls before 5 p.m.
Okay.
So there are times where maybe by 4 p.m. every voter has come to vote, or they are so certain that no one else is coming to vote for various reasons, they still have to wait till 5 p.m. before they can close.
Unless they have exhausted their list of voters for that particular polling station.
No, the time is 5 p.m. You cannot close a polling station before 5 p.m.
Okay.
The other issue I wanted to talk about relates to spoiled ballots. So if you are a voter and you went to a polling station and for some reason they issued a ballot to you, and you accidentally saw the ballots, it got torn, or for whatever reason, maybe you even thumbprinted on a candidate and later you realize it was a mistake, you have a right to go back to the poll officials and 35, the provisions under 35, sub-regulation 35 of the CI states that a voter who inadvertently deals with, so here the emphasis is that it was inadvertent. You deal with the ballot paper given to you in a manner that the ballot paper can no longer be used as a ballot paper shall. Okay, so this is to the...
So if it happens that way, say you deliver the spoiled ballot paper to the presiding officer.
So you are supposed to give it back to them.
Exactly.
They can also have some mistakes, they can also soil, and these ballots are supposed to be cancelled, but you have a right to be given another ballot so that you can still cast.
The law says you have to prove to the satisfaction of the presiding officer that the ballot paper was inadvertently spoiled. And then you'll obtain another ballot paper in place of the spoiled ballot paper delivered to the presiding officer. Then the spoiled ballot paper shall be immediately cancelled and the counterfoil marked accordingly. So they have to destroy the first one that is destroyed, that is soiled.
Usually they keep them in an envelope, seal it, so that we know that these are the ballots that were...
Now let's get some questions, but when we do that, I'll come to Rhoda again. There's that other aspect where the presiding officer has the power to exclude you from the polling station. You are coming there in Regulation 29. The presiding officer can say, I want this number of people at the polling station at this particular time. So please stand somewhere. Let's see what will happen and how they are supposed to do it so that they don't end up infringing your right. I can see quite a number of you on the Zoom. Who is, okay, Agambire. Agambire, unmute and let's hear you. Everybody else, please keep your microphones mute. Agambire, let's hear you.
All right, thanks so much, Ladi. Good afternoon to all of the people on the line.
Yeah, where are you speaking to us from?
I'm calling from Wa.
Okay, good. Let's hear you.
Yes, I would want to find out how many times can a voter change his ballot in case of any unfortunate spoilage. For instance, for the first one, you may consider, but I don't know how many times would that be allowed.
Thank you very much, Agambire. Let's take another person. So Agambire, please mute yourself and stay glued. Emmanuel, unmute and let's hear you.
Yes, thank you, Samson.
You're welcome.
I think, I got the opportunity yesterday to ask a question regarding the number of people as to whether you can stay at the polling station after voting or not.
You did that on Newsfile. The
clarity is that, yes, please, yesterday.
Okay, great.
I'm recording. Yes, so with this one, is it left to the discretion of the electoral officers, or there's a specific law that will tell you that this is lawful or not?
Okay.
Is it left to the discretion of the electoral officers?
Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Let's hold on. Benjamin, when we return shortly, we'll hear from Benjamin. So everybody keep your lines muted. So number one, we just went through the process where a spoiled ballot, if you spoil the ballot, you can go and change. He wants to know, for how many times can I spoil it and get a new one?
Well, I think the provision is not clear on that, but as we read, the issue is that you have to prove that this was inadvertent, and I'm sure that if you spoil your ballot and you were given another opportunity, you definitely have to make sure that this time around you are doing right. So
so you can change your mind at least once or twice, but upon the third time, you see the presiding officer may not be happy with you. Why? You alone? Why? So please take your time and do it well. By the time you get into that polling booth, you have already made up your mind. So why are you changing your mind right there?
Maybe
then
some tension.
Okay, tension. All right, then.
You raised the issue about
Emmanuel.
the number of. Okay, sorry.
Yes, Emmanuel, a number of people that he can admit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that provision, this is 29.3, is quite important in the period that we find ourselves in, which is the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
Because we don't want polling stations to be crowded. There are different types of places where voting is going to take place, and some of them may not be conducive to have too many people. So here is an opportunity for the presiding officer to further enforce the COVID protocols. And so it will be possible, it may happen that they may decide to admit some people at a time, but you still have the right and you'll be allowed to vote within the period that voting will be taking place.
So, Emmanuel, your question is whether it is his discretion or it is law. It is law. The law says the presiding officer shall regulate the number of voters to be admitted to the polling station at each time. And by that regulation, it means he may ask some people to step aside. So it says, and shall exclude other persons. But there are some people that he cannot exclude from the polling station. They are the candidates, their spouses, and their polling or counting agents. You cannot ask them to leave. That one, it can't happen. Then election officers. He can't ask an election officer to leave. Security officers on duty. Remember, it is security officers on duty. If you're a security officer, you're not on duty, and you are just around to join the normal thing, and he feels that the number he needs to admit can exclude you, he can exclude you. The persons accredited by the commission, like people from Codeo, the media, observers, they are accredited. You cannot exclude them. They must be part of the process. And then persons accompanying voters who are visually impaired or physically challenged. The blind and other people who are physically challenged, the people who are coming with them, you cannot ask them to step aside. But I think the important thing is the law says whatever the presiding officer does, and here is what it says: the powers conferred by this regulation shall not be exercised to prevent a voter who is entitled to vote at a polling station from having the opportunity to vote at that polling station. Exclude you for a while. Once the place is in order, then he admits the next set of numbers, but never to prevent you from voting. Yes, Benjamin, unmute and let's hear you.
Hello?
Yes, Benjamin, go ahead.
Yeah, something. Thank you very much. I think this is just an advice that I'm trying to give to all Ghanaians. This is our country. You and your crew are really doing a very good job over there. You have gone through the rules and the regulation governing this particular election. I just want to sound a caution to all of us as Ghanaians. We should, as much as possible, understand that this is our country. However, there are rules governing everything. So once we go there, let us oblige to all the rules and regulations by the EC. And at the end of the day, when Ghana wins, everybody wins. So this is just a warning or a caution that I'm just trying to give across.
Thank you, Benjamin. Please mute yourself. And let's have Zachariah. Hello, Zachariah.
Good afternoon.
Yes. Where are you calling? Where are you reaching us from?
From Tamale.
All right. Please, let's go.
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Please, may I know the process in which the polling stations returning officers are going to follow either to deliver their pink sheet or their declaration sheet to their constituency level, because EC is saying they want to use within 24 or 48 hours in order to declare the elections. And looking at the nature of some of our electoral areas, they are far away. So if they don't tell us the robust process in which they are going to use in order to declare the results within that time frame given, I'm sure it's going to affect the credibility of the EC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Rhoda, what do you say to him?
Well, at the end of voting, after the sorting, counting, and declaration of results is done at the polling station, the presiding officers are supposed to travel or move to the constituency collation centers where they present their voting materials, but also the statement of polls, the result declaration forms to the collation officers at the constituency collation centers. They are going to then, for the presidential election results, they are going to further transfer those results to the regional collation centers and then further to the National Collation Center. Now, we know that they are essentially going to fax these results. We know that they are also trying to use they are using technology to also get these results. But essentially, if you look at the law, they are going to rely on faxing. They are going to ask the various officials to fax these results.
Once they are done from the polling station, they'll be escorted by the police who is in charge. And I think the party officers, they go to the collation center and they deliver it there. And so it's supposed to be transparent, as it has always been. There's one issue. There are parties who are telling their supporters that when you vote, stand there, don't move.
I mean, this was an issue in 2016, I remember. And it comes up once in a while. But yesterday also we had that question, and I think I read the specific provision.
Regulation 33.
CI, which stated that
33.4.
Just a moment, yes.
Yeah.
So the voter shall, the voter shall then vote. So this is after you've given your ballot and you've gone to the booth.
We're going to the Electoral Commission offices shortly because you're having a press conference. But once they are done, we'll continue with the education. So 33.4.
So this is after you've tempered. You're supposed to fold up the ballot paper and in the presence of the presiding officer and the polling agents and in full view of the general public, cast a vote by putting the folded ballot paper into the ballot box and leave the polling station. So you are expected to leave the polling station.
So the law says leave the polling station after you have voted. Leave the polling station. That's the law. Leave. Vote and leave. But after you have left, you can come in later after 5 or at 5. You can come in later at 5 to observe the counting process. Please remember, the law says vote and leave. Unless you are voting exactly at 5 o'clock, vote, leave. If you don't leave, the presiding officer has power to ask
He can ask the security officer at the polling station to send you away.
To remove you, take you away. So that can happen. Can actually ask if you are causing trouble, to be arrested so that you can leave the place, then everybody can go about their duty in peace since you want to cause trouble. So vote and leave. Now, let me read Regulation 30. Keeping order at polling station. It says the presiding officer shall maintain order at the polling station assigned to the presiding officer. The presiding officer may authorize a security officer to immediately remove from a polling station a person who behaves in a manner to disrupt proceedings at the polling station or fails to obey the lawful orders of the presiding officer. If you are not leaving after voting and the presiding officer says leave, that's a lawful order. Leave. So if you don't, you get arrested. If you fail to obey the orders, he will not allow you. Then where the person removed under by an agent or is a party agent, then they must immediately inform the political party involved so that they can quickly ensure that there's a new person to replace. But whatever the presiding officer does or any election EC officer does, the law says it must not prevent you from voting. Right.
Yeah, and I think it's important we emphasize that if you are a polling agent, you are not
We are going to the Electoral Commission right now to listen to what they have to tell us, and then we shall return. This is the law, and we'll be here with you to give you more education.
God's name shall be glorified. Father, we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. Because there is victory already for Ghana. There's victory for Ghana already. We thank you for victory for Ghana in the name of Jesus. Let this gathering be smooth. Let it be wonderful and bring it to a successful end. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much for that powerful prayer. Indeed. Ya komcheni ya bankesini irade. We give you all the glory, Father, Abba Father. We thank you. We praise your holy name. Now, permit me to do the needful as protocol demands. Let me introduce to you the commissioners and directors here and present. Once again, we are privileged to have with us here the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, our mother, our leader, Mrs. Jean Mensah. She's again flanked by her deputies, Dr. Bosman Erikasari, Deputy Chairman, Corporate Services. And then to her right, Mrs. Samuel Teti, Deputy Chairman, Operations. Next is Dr. Sribo Kwiku, Director, Electoral Services. Mr. Michael Wedu, our pastor for this afternoon, Director, Training. Mrs. Samuel Wedu, Director, Human Resource. Mr. Lawrence Sapon, Director, Administration. Mr. Alex Poku Akubia, Director, Research Monitoring and Evaluation. And my good self, I'm Silviano, your moderator for this afternoon. Thank you. We'll go straight away to the presentation by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jean Mensah. Thank you very much, madam.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm not sure you can hear because I have the... Good afternoon, distinguished citizens of Ghana. I warmly welcome you to today's Let the Citizen Know. Indeed, today is a great day, and we thank the good Lord for his faithfulness. We could not have come this far without him, and as a commission, we remain eternally grateful. Our words of exhortation as thus far has the Lord brought us. Today marks a historic day in our national calendar. It is the day before the 7th of December general elections. We say to God be the glory, great things he has done, and greater things he will do. This afternoon, we are here to give you, our distinguished citizens, an account of the work we have done to ensure a credible, fair, orderly, timely, transparent, and peaceful election come tomorrow, the 7th of December, 2020. As a commission, we recognize that we are accountable to the citizens of Ghana. And I'm pleased to inform you that by the grace of God, we are fully ready to conduct a successful, credible, fair, orderly, and peaceful election tomorrow, Monday, the 7th of December, 2020. Permit me to highlight the work done so far to achieve these results. Procurement of logistics. The Commission has procured a wide variety of election materials for the 2020 election. These include ballot boxes, thumbprint pads, identification jackets, polling station booths, rechargeable lamps, indelible ink, educational posters, and seals, among others. I'm pleased to note that as a result of a thorough planning and distribution process, we have distributed these items to all 38,622 polling stations across the country. For the first time in the history of the Commission, we printed and distributed all ballot papers for the 2020 presidential and parliamentary election some 2.5 weeks before the election. This early planning and distribution of our logistics has helped ease the pressure on our officials and has allowed the Commission enough time to strategize well ahead of the election. We believe this will improve the overall quality of the election. COVID-19 and the measures put in place to curb the spread of the virus at all polling stations across the country. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are mindful of the fact that we are not in normal times. As such, we have put in place stringent safety protocols and procured the necessary items to guarantee the safety and security of all our stakeholders at our centers. We were able to test our safety protocols during the 38-day registration exercise, as well as the special voting exercise. This will be replicated on election day. Interestingly, we saw a decline in COVID cases during and after the registration exercise, and we believe that with the stringent measures put in place, we should witness such a decline after the election. Beyond the polling stations, we have also put in arrangements at all our collation centers to curb the spread of the virus. Projectors and screens have been provided in each of the 275 collation centers and 16 constituency collation centers, I beg your pardon, and 16 regional collation centers on which the results would be displayed. This will prevent the gathering of persons around laptops to view the collated results, thereby minimizing crowding and curbing the spread of the virus. We are confident that the training afforded our 38,622 plus COVID ambassadors will result in an efficient and effective implementation of our safety protocols nationwide. I'll turn my attention to the recruitment and training of staff. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, recognizing that the performance of our field officials is key to the success of the election, we provided a 3-week rigorous training program on all aspects of the election cycle to some 240,000 field officials. Additionally, for the first time in the Commission's history, all field officials have signed a binding and enforceable code of conduct to abide by the guidelines and directives of the Commission. We are confident that with the skills acquired and the codes of conduct signed, our field officials will deliver their functions efficiently and effectively and perform their duties creditably. Now to the biometric verification devices. As you may be aware, the Commission has procured 74,800 brand new biometric verification devices to enhance the integrity and credibility of the polls. The devices have been prepared and distributed to polling stations across the country. We are confident that the enhanced features of the devices will speed up the verification process and go a long way to ensure that only persons whose biometric details are captured in our system vote on election day. It is important to note that the device has a record of both fingerprints as well as the facial features of each unique individual. As a result, in the event where an individual has lost the use of his or her fingers, the facial recognition feature would be employed to identify the voter. We are confident that the use of both features will go a long way to enhance the integrity of the polls. Feedback from the recent special voting, which took place on the 1st of December 2020, indicates that the equipment functioned effectively and enabled the prompt verification of voters at all polling stations throughout the country. We believe that the efficiency of the kits will enhance the voters' experience on election day. Now to the 2020 voters register. Distinguished citizens of Ghana, as you may be aware, the Commission has prepared a new biometric voters register in time for the election. We are pleased to note that the register embodies unique individuals only. To date, the register has a total of 17,027,000 971 voters. And we are confident in the credibility and the integrity of the 2020 voters register. Last week, the Commission made the register available to the citizenry in 3 electronic formats to enable registered voters seamlessly check their details ahead of the election. We encourage voters who have not checked their details to do so, as this comes at no cost to the voter. Voters may visit the Commission's website at registers.ec.gov.gh and enter their 10-digit voter's ID card number on the website application to confirm their details. The second option available for checking a person's details is by using the short code provided, *711*2020#. Voters, by dialing this number, may on any phone and network and entering their voter's ID card and polling station code would have information on their registration details. The third option is to use an Android phone application whose link details are on our website. In all 3 cases, voters will receive confirmation of their name on the register, as well as their date of birth and their polling station code and polling station name. We are happy to note that the feedback from voters who have used this service has been very positive and encouraging. We have heard good news only, and this is a testament of the hard work and hours put in by the Commission staff, both permanent and temporary, to ensure a credible voters register. I'll turn my attention to the number of polling stations for the 2020 election. For the 2020 election, the Commission has created 38,622 polling stations across the country. This is some 10,000 polling stations more than the 2016 polling stations. The threshold set for the polling stations is 749 voters per polling station. It is important to note, however, that more than 70% of the polling stations have 500 voters or less. We have reduced the threshold to minimize overcrowding and long queues at our polling stations. We have no doubt that voters will enjoy a hassle-free and seamless experience at polling stations across the country. Now I'll talk about our call center. Distinguished citizens, in our bid to be responsive to the citizenry and to provide them with prompt and timely feedback on issues that may arise on the election day, we have established a call center to enable voters relay their concerns and feedback to the Commission. A toll-free number has been set aside for this purpose. The number is 0800 100 100. And I'd like to repeat this again, 0800 100 100. Voters will not be charged for making calls to this number, and the call center will be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on election day. Additionally, callers may use any network to contact the Commission. The Commission has trained a number of its staff to be responsive to the needs of voters, and we are confident that the voters would have their issues resolved in a very timely manner. Misplaced voters' ID cards. This comes to inform the general public that any citizen who has misplaced his or her voter's ID card can still vote, as their details are on the biometric verification devices. As such, we entreat this category of voters to go to the polling station where they registered to cast their votes. Voters who have lost their voter ID cards can still go to the polling stations where they registered and cast their votes. This is because the Commission has their biometric details on the biometric verification devices. The provision of masks in polling stations in rural areas. In response to concerns relating to disenfranchised citizens who visit polling stations without masks, the Commission will provide masks in polling stations in rural communities to ensure the very rare voters who visit our polling stations without masks to be provided masks to enable them vote and exercise their franchise. This facility is restricted to polling stations in very rural communities only. Now to the declaration of results. Distinguished citizens, in our bid to reduce tension and suspicion around the election and to promote efficiency in our work, we plan to declare the results within 24 hours. This may seem ambitious to some, and some have also expressed concern about the accuracy of results declared just 24 hours after the election. On behalf of the Commission, I wish to assure you that the declared results will be a true reflection of the will of the people as documented on the pink sheets. The only aspect of our processes that has changed is the efficiency that we have built into them. We are confident that with the total commitment of all our officials, we will witness the timely delivery of the 2020 presidential and parliamentary results, God being our helper. It's important to emphasize that we have introduced another layer into the collation of results. In the past, the Commission was receiving results from all 275 constituencies. Under the current CI, that is CI 127, the Commission will now receive results from 16 regional collation centers. What this means is that every constituency in the region will send their results to the regional collation centers, and they in turn will collate the results from the regional collation sheets and the regional summary sheets and forward this to the Commission. Therefore, the Commission will not be receiving 275 results from the constituencies as it was in the past, and will be receiving results only from 16 regional collation centers. And we believe that with this approach, it really makes the work of the Commission much easier, because you are only receiving and collating 16 regional results. And that's why we believe that with the training also afforded our staff and the facilities made available, we should be able to declare results in the 24 hours. It is important to note that we are not engaging in electronic transmission. We are relying on the good old fax in addition to emails for the transmission of results. And this goes to assure the citizenry that we are not going to have figures going through some tunnel. What comes to us is a photo of the pink sheets, the collation sheets, signed by party agents. And this is the photograph that will be sent to us via fax or by scanned and sent by email. Posting of results on the website of the Electoral Commission. In our bid to keep our stakeholders informed and to provide them with accurate results before the final declaration of results, the Commission will post regular updates of results on its website. As you are aware, the results are certified results and may take a slightly longer time to upload because of the processes involved. However, we've put in place mechanisms to try to ensure a speedy and timely posting of results on our website. On the issue of security, a year ago, we started engagements with the National Elections Security Task Force, headed by the Inspector General of Police. We have had several meetings with them. In fact, just last week, we had a meeting, a high-level meeting with the security agencies as well. And to date, we have provided them with all relevant information, including details of our polling stations, collation centers, as well as possible conflict areas. We are confident that the arrangements of the security agencies will ensure law and order throughout our polling stations on election day and beyond. I'll turn my attention to the important issue of the declaration of results. By law, the Electoral Commission is the only body and institution clothed with the power and authority to declare presidential results. We therefore caution all, and parliamentary results as well. We therefore caution all stakeholders, particularly the political parties, to desist from declaring results. We have indicated our intention to declare the final certified results in a timely manner, and we will do so, God being our help us. We therefore call on all our stakeholders to remain patient and leave the Electoral Commission to perform its function. Finally, our distinguished citizens, we cannot close our curtain today without expressing our sincere gratitude to all of you. You have kept faith with us and walked this journey with us. Your feedback has helped strengthen our work and processes and has left us in a much better place than when we started. We thank you very much. To our dear media partners, we thank you so much for partnering with us. It's been a long road, and you have worked with us to ensure that the truth and facts regarding our work are disseminated to the citizenry. We could not have come this far without you, and we say thank you and God bless you. We entreat you to remain true to your creed and your profession. At such a critical time in our country's destiny, the facts and truth only is what should be disseminated, and we urge you to remain decorous in all your reportage. As the chairperson of the commission, I pledge on behalf of the whole commission that we will remain true to our motto and operate with fairness and integrity and promote transparency till the very end, God being our helper. This is a final call to our staff in the field, all our field officials. Let truth guide you and let integrity preserve you. We are sure all of you are distinguished citizens that the results will be delivered will reflect the will of the people and the will of the people only, as expressed on the ballots and on the pink sheets. Finally, I'd like to encourage all voters who turned up in their numbers to register to go out tomorrow, Monday, the 7th of December, and cast their votes peacefully. Let us remember that your vote is your power. Dear citizens, we urge you all to continue to pray for the peace of our dear nation. And before we close this session, I leave you with the words of the hymn, O God, our help in ages past. It says, O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal hope. May God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong. Let peace reign. Thank you very much. Go on. Oh, please give us the tune. No.
Do we have the choir master?
We are waiting. Yeah, please do.
Oh God, I help you.
Welcome to your election headquarters. This is your JoyNews channel, and you know this is your most credible news source. Well, this hour we are dealing with education for you, and thank you all so much. The interest was so massive, and I expect that you will reconnect as we try to conclude. This is the law, and on this show we give you pure legal education, unadulterated. And so far, thank you for all your comments also that came in. Those of you asking that there should be fairness, unbiasedness on the part of the Electoral Commission officers, and all of you who are wishing the country well tomorrow. You know, Ghana is capable. We've always done this. I think it's just one of those things. Tomorrow we'll do, and it will come and pass like every other time we have done. So there's no need for panic. And the Electoral Commission gives us even better assurances that they have got everything ticked. And tomorrow, God willing, within 24 hours, they will give us the results. They have shown that they can do it. They should be able to do it. All right. So I'm still here, still have in the studio Mrs. Rhoda Osei Afo of the CODEO, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, who have deploying or have already deployed 4,000 plus people onto the elections. And you may have followed the Electoral Commission visiting their room. You set up a room, you called it...
the National Information Center.
National Information Center.
That's where we are coordinating all our election day activities.
Right. And the Electoral Commission said that the job that CODEO will do and has been doing will give credibility to the elections. 40,000 plus. So you can imagine they have their eyes and ears everywhere in the country. Well, your election headquarters, we are also present in all the constituencies. And you know how we do it on Joy, your election headquarters. We deal with the facts and we call the elections. This time, we're in competition with the Electoral Commission. All right. So, Rhoda, we had just finished dealing with the aspects of the enormous powers exercised by the presiding officer at the polling station, which the caveat in the law is that no matter how they exercise the powers there, they should not exercise it to prevent a voter from voting. Let's continue with the education. What else can we be looking at? What they should not be doing?
On the part of the poll officials, we have certain categories of people who may need assistance. People who...
forgive me, but we understand that the EC has something small to do, so we'll take that and return for the education.
You know, their names are not on the voters' register and therefore not on our database. And in our bid to ensure that nobody who registered is disenfranchised, what we've done is to identify each and every one of them. After a thorough audit and reconciliation process, we went drilled down to the last person who registered to ensure that they are not disenfranchised. So what we have done is that their Form 1As and Form 1Cs, together with their names, are being sent to the polling station where they registered. And therefore, if they do show up, they would be allowed to be verified manually. These are persons who will fill the manual verification form because their names are not on the biometric verification device. However, as I mentioned, their manual verification forms at the polling stations, their details are there, their Form 1As and Cs are there, and they'll be allowed to vote if they do turn up, so they will not be disenfranchised. Now to the masks. We wish we could have provided it for all. And this is being responsive. It was not planned, but there have been some concerns about persons who may not be able to afford it, who may show up at some of the polling stations. And, in a bid not to disenfranchise them, we have made arrangements to have masks in those rural polling stations to ensure that should anybody appear without a mask, they would be afforded the opportunity to vote. However, we are of the view that with the extensive education that we have put out in 6 major dialects, local dialects and in the English language, so 7 in total, and it's gone down for the last 6 weeks, extensive education on our safety protocols and responsibilities of the citizenry as well. We are very hopeful that everybody will turn up with a mask or at best a piece of cloth covering their nose and their mouth. If I should take a cue from what happened at the special voting, we had a turnout of 87.8% turnout at the special voting exercise that took place, on the 1st of December. So we are hoping that we will have, such a turnout or higher, God being our helper and all things going well. But from the special voting, the turnout was 87.8. And if that is an indication, of how things are going to go, then we are expecting that for tomorrow as well, we should have such a high turnout or better. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Doc. My name is Akko Moses. I report for Bloomberg. Think you not that you may need to give a bit of a caveat to your 24-hour self-imposed deadline for declaring the results? That history has taught that sometimes, out of inexplicable reasons, certain sections may delay, which may be so key that you can't go ahead to do the declaration. If you think a caveat may help, it'll be grateful to hear what it's going to be. And given the uncertainty of the situation, what modes of communication are you going to have? Because the exigencies of the moment may not necessitate a possibility of gathering us again as pressmen. So maybe a quick release here and there that is authentic, that we can know without necessarily having to come here, so that in time and on time releases for us to source and then quote in our real-time reportage may also help. And last question, if those who were supposed to have done the special voting, if for any reason they failed or they couldn't go to vote, what happens? Are they able to now go back to the original places to vote? How does it work? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Eko. I think with the intention to declare within 24 hours, it's not cast in stone, and it's not within a law. It is just with the mindset that if you have the results, why keep it? And a lot of effort has been made to ensure that the results will reach us in a timely fashion. We do have certain communities that are the riverine communities and so on, which have rivers crossing and separating communities. Some arrangements have been made to ensure that they are able to send the results to the collation centers and so on. But we are doing this with one thing in mind. If you do have the results, why keep it? Why hold a nation to ransom and keep a nation in suspense and you have the results? So there is just efficiency being built into the processes. If you are a presiding officer at a polling station and you've collated your results, within a certain time frame, you should be able to move it on. Not to say that, oh, I'm done, I'm going to have a beer at the bar, or I'm going to sit at the chop bar and give myself a big meal of fufu or something. You've got to move. And so this is what we all are responsible to labor, but it is not cast in stone. And therefore, if for one reason or the other, and I don't think that will happen, we are not able to achieve it, we are not falling foul of the law. But this is the intention. Yes. And then also, we would keep you abreast throughout the voting day tomorrow. We have a media center which will be churning out, responding to questions and concerns, and which would keep you abreast on issues that may arise. And of course, as I mentioned, we have the call center as well. But together we'll be providing you with periodic feedback. I did mention that the intention is to keep posting results as they trickle in and responses to issues on our website. We don't intend to go silent for 24 hours, but as and when the results trickle in, we will be providing, the citizenry with updates on the results that are certified until the final declaration. So basically, that is what it is. And the special voting, unfortunately, those who had their names on the special voters list, but were not able to exercise their franchise, lose their right to do so, because their names are not reflected in the, in the register. So that is, I felt bad that, some people didn't go and cast their votes, because that list was advertised extensively on the website, and additionally copies were given, the soft copies were given to the various institutions that took part in the special voting. So unfortunately they lose their right to exercise their franchise tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, can I do a follow-up? Yeah, we are in an era of AI, what we call artificial intelligence. How are you securing the mail that you get to be sure that it is really authentic? In the midst of that, there's a word we also know we call cloning. So in the midst of all these things, how do you authenticate that which is mailed to you? And then finally, we have been in this country where certain strategic ministries have had their websites hacked. How are you preparing? I don't want to wake up on Monday morning and the website of the Electoral Commission has been hacked. How are you preparing in all these things to ensure that you are secured enough to prosecute your agenda? Thank you very much.
I think a lot of effort has been built to secure the systems. And, you know, I'm sure there's no system in the world that is 100%, but a lot of effort has been put in to secure our systems, both with the emails to prevent this cloning and hacking of websites and so on. But I would not disclose those here. I'm sure that when we are done, we can, but a lot of effort has been put in to secure the systems. And I hope and I believe that because of what has gone in, we will not experience that.
My name is Favor Nunu with BBC Pigeon, and my question has to do with the fact that on election day, we know that sometimes people deploy their own quasi-security forces. We understand that there's a law in place to criminalize this. We didn't hear you address some of these concerns where some very exuberant individuals want to police the ballot and ensure that no scheming or whatsoever happens. What's the process in place to ensure that some of these things are done away with?
I think we have the security agencies in place, and I believe they have received their briefing. And the security agencies are aware that every party has an agent, one for presidential and one for parliamentary. And therefore, if you are not a party agent with the accreditation of the EC, bearing the EC accreditation card, you cannot hang around there to police the ballot. You don't have business there. So within the polling station and the collation centers, it is the EC officials who are properly clothed in their identification jackets with the logo, and the party agents who have the accreditation cards who are allowed in there. So I believe that a lot of briefing has gone on with the security agencies. We've had several meetings with them. I believe they have also in turn trained the officials as to what to allow and what is allowable and what is not. So we do not expect that persons who are not legitimate or who have not been accredited to be there would be there. And I'm sure that the police would perform their functions, you know, creditably. And that's why we've engaged with them for a long time to discuss some of these arrangements with them, what is allowed and what is not allowed at the polling station and at the collation centers. And thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Bismarck Nanopon. I work with Green FM in Accra. Madam Chairperson, I would like to ask, now that we are not in our normal times as usual, if the Electoral Commission is supporting or giving out nose masks in some rural areas, is it allowed that some political agents can also provide nose masks without their political colors in it? Thank you.
I think that by law, parties are not supposed to share items at the polling stations.
Without their political colors.
Yes, and I think even this week we sent out a notice, you know, to our staff cautioning them against receiving food items and beverages from party agents, even if it doesn't have any logo of the party. And it extends to, you know, masks as well. They may do so in the communities outside the polling station. And I'm sure that that is being done. They may do so outside the confines of the polling station. But within the polling station, you know, they cannot share any item there because they could end up sharing pens and everything else and compromise the integrity of the poll. Okay. So they are not allowed to bring anything and share anything to anybody. In the community, they may, and that is allowable, that they may come in with plain masks, without a party symbol and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ohiniba Kingsley, representing Untimi Television and Radio. You made mention of some political parties declaring their own results ahead of EC. Do you have any punishment for such group of people? We know last 4 years it happened. We know this year definitely it will happen. So do you have any stiff punishment for those groups?
There's no punishment. Well, we entreat the public to disregard any such announcement because nobody has the power. And also for the public to condemn parties that, fall foul of the law. I think these are very critical and delicate issues. And this is something that even the media must take very, very seriously and not tolerate because it could lead to confusion. So we entreat the public to ignore, such announcements because they can announce, but it's not a declaration. But even then, it is illegal for any party to announce that they have won an election. It's out of law. And we ask that our friends in the media will treat this with the condemnation that it deserves and not let it have the light of day. Because it is by law, it is the commission that has the power and is cloaked with the power to declare results. I think our laws must bite a bit more because we have laws without sanctions. And these are some of the challenges that we face, where you put in place laws, but there are no sanctions for people who go foul and fall foul and go contrary to the law. And I think in future, these are some of the things that we can discuss together with the political parties.
I think this brings us to the end.
I think we can have two questions.
Two more, and that will be it. Yeah.
So thank you very much. My name is Kingsley Seydou from the Custodian newspaper. One thing that came out during the special voting was people actually screenshotting their ballot and then showing it via social media. So is there a punishment? Are we allowed to go there with our phones and screenshot and show through social media? Or is there a punishment for those who do that? Thank you.
I think she has given up. Yes. Good afternoon. Madam, please, I would want to know, my name is Julius. I report for the Ghanaian Times. I would want to know what is the parameters of a polling center, 500 meters away. What the definition of a polling so that when people are there, they know that this is a polling station. I'm not supposed to do this or that. Thank you.
I think it's 500 meters away. That's the definition. And you should be, there should be a distance between, the polling station and any activity, some 500 meters away. And that's the definition. There was a question?
I think we have exhausted all the questions. Social, the cloning.
Oh yeah, I think that's another thing that has come up. Unfortunately, there's no punishment for it. But we entreat citizens to be law-abiding. I mean, there's no reason why anybody should know your vote, and you should share with the whole public. And therefore we entreat them in the interest of the peace of our country. We entreat people to be law-abiding, and each of us has a role to play. However, we don't have any punishment for such persons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All too soon, we've come to the end of today's Let the Citizen Know, edition of Let the Citizen Know. I believe all the salient questions have been asked. All the same, let me, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Commission, thank you for your reportage and wish you the very best tomorrow. Having in mind the guiding principles of fairness and accuracy when you are reporting. I'm talking to my friends in the media. Thank you very much. On that note, let me once again call on our pastor for today, Mr. Michael Bodu, to seal today's briefing.
You're still here on your election headquarters, but this is the law. And my guest, Rhoda Osayafo, is still here. she was just about to educate us around the subject of rejected ballots. Never get your ballot rejected. That would be so sad. You join a queue from morning till whenever, then you vote, and the ballot is rejected. That would be terrible. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, if you look at the CI, the provisions under 40, just a moment.
Yeah, regulation.
It touches on rejected ballots, and it says that a ballot paper shall, subject to sub-regulation 2, be void and not counted if the ballot paper A does not bear the official mark of the commission. So on the part of the poll officials, they're supposed to be checking if the ballots that are in the box are really authentic ballots. Right. On the part of the voter, you're also supposed to be sure that what you have is a valid ballot. Then B is not printed by the voter to clearly identify the candidate for whom the vote was cast. So if you vote and it's not clear whom you voted for, then your ballot is going to be rejected.
To be sure that the clarity is achieved, you thumbprint at the empty space. You see the image of the candidate you want to vote for, and then you see the party symbol or logo. Then a space left there, that square, is for you to put your thumb there. Don't put it anywhere else. Put it there, right there. Right.
And then if you don't thumbprint at all, so a blank paper will be rejected. If it has on the ballot paper writing or mark by which the voter could easily be identified. So if you go writing, say, your name or your phone number on your ballot paper, that qualifies to be rejected during sorting. So I think this is quite important. We are going to vote, but we must make sure that our votes are counted at the end of the day.
And a rejected ballot, you began it with the most important education, that every ballot that you thumbprint, immediately you collect it, turn and look at the back if the EC stamp is on it. If it is not being stamped, it's invalid. Everything you do on it, waste of time. Right. What else can we talk about?
The other issue I want to touch on is the issue of misinformation. And we all have to be responsible, voters and citizens. A lot of information will likely come through in the next few hours, in the next few days. But it's important that at every point in time, whatever we are forwarding, we are sharing on whatever platform, we have a certain level of we have to be sure what we are sharing, so that you are not just receiving and forwarding information without verifying or checking to see whether this really augurs well for the peace of the country. Then the other thing is about, again, the COVID. For our rural folks...
Before we get there, on the important issue of rejected ballots, the presiding officer who has to make that decision is not supposed to make that decision alone, because there are other partners in the election process at the polling station at that time. The law requires the presiding officer that before rejecting a ballot paper as void, he will take proper precautions to prevent a person from seeing the serial number printed on the ballot paper, number one. Number two, the presiding officer is to show the ballot paper to each candidate or the counting agent of the candidate, if present, is to show it to them, then give the candidate or the counting agent of the candidate an opportunity to express an opinion on the matter. Then after that, he shall endorse that ballot with the word rejected. So he has to write rejected in bold on the ballot paper, which is not to be counted. Add to the endorsement the words rejection objected to. If an objection is made by a candidate or the counting agent in respect of the rejected ballot paper. So if the party's agent or the candidate's agent, that's correct, the candidate's agent who is there at the time, you show it to him as a presiding officer. You are bound by law to show it. It's not your discretion. You don't decide, I want to show it, I don't want to show you. Bound by law to show it. Once you show it, and they express an opinion that you cannot reject that ballot paper, you write on the ballot paper, after you are written rejected, you have to indicate rejection with rejection objected to. Rejection objected to. If you don't follow these things and an issue comes up later and the results is being challenged, something can happen. And remember that for parliamentary elections, it takes only one vote, one more vote than the other for one person to lose and for another person to win. The presiding officer shall prepare a statement showing the number of ballot papers rejected. So you prepare a statement and show the number of ballot papers that have been rejected, and he will mark them want of an official mark, indicate why it has been rejected. You don't just reject and leave it there. So you prepare a statement and state why that ballot paper has been rejected. And the reasons you can give include want of an official mark. There was not an official mark on it. B, voting for more than one candidate. Maybe the person printed more than once. C, writing a mark by which a voter could easily be identified. Rhoda just spoke about that. You wrote your name or you did something on the ballot paper that can identify you. And D, unmarked, or that is where you didn't put any mark on it, like she said, blank. Some people, I hear some people do that as a protest. Then finally, choice of voter could not be ascertained. So you spoil the ballot in such a way that they cannot tell who you are voting for. They must state that on the statement. You don't just say, I have rejected it, end of story. If it goes to court and the thing is challenged, for as long as you haven't written anything on it, it will be counted for somebody, and some issues may come up. The last thing to say about that is that the presiding officer shall keep ballot papers marked rejection objected to in a separate envelope and deliver the ballot papers to the returning officer, who may re-examine the ballot papers and take a decision on the ballot papers. So the presiding officer is under a returning officer. Presiding officer is not the boss. He's the boss at the polling station. But there's a returning officer who is higher than him. So once he marks it, rejection with objection, he marks it rejection objected to, he will separate those and give it to the returning officer. And the returning officer will make a decision. That decision can end up admitting what has been rejected. You are going to the next issue.
A similar provision also relates to the issue of recounting or request for recounting. And here provision 39(4) states that a candidate or a representative of a candidate or a counting agent may, if present when the counting of the ballot is completed, request the presiding officer to recount the ballot and again recount the ballot for a second time. The presiding officer may refuse to comply with the request to recount the ballots for a second time if, in the opinion of the presiding officer, the request is unreasonable, and shall report to the matter to the returning officer, who shall recount the ballots for that polling station only at the collation center. So at the polling station, at the end of the day, an agent can ask for a recount of the ballots. And I think the assumption here is that that is supposed to be granted. But of course, the presiding officer will determine. You can also ask for another recount or a recount. So
you're entitled to a recount twice.
However, the second one, the presiding officer can deny. But he will defer to the returning officer at the collation center. So there, your request can be considered and the collation officer will do the recount there.
Right. Thank you very much. I can pick a few questions for you because there are people who are itching to get in. And I'm sure you are saying, now we are giving you all of these things, and we were here this afternoon, to talk about what the election officers should not do. And if they do the wrong thing, then what will happen? We are going to tell you what will happen right away. So we can have you join. I've seen some of you joining us. Let's have a question or two for Rhoda, and then we can end it. Yes, Saidu Rashid. Yes, let's hear you. Saidu Rashid, unmute.
For Rhoda, and then
Saidu Rashid, listen to me directly. Unmute and listen to me directly. Yeah, let's go.
Saidu Rashid, unmute.
Hello, hello, Dr. Na. Hello, Dr. Na, let's listen to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Na, we can hear you. Saidu, mute your own.
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Saidu, mute your own. Let's listen to Dr. Na first. Hello, Dr. Na, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Samson, for the opportunity. Good evening. Hello, can you hear me? I'm speaking from
Go ahead. You said you are speaking from where? Okay, Dr. Na, I don't know what's happening. You started introducing yourself and saying you're speaking from somewhere, but just, and Saidu, when you come back, listen directly. Don't listen through the TV or anything. Listen directly to the machine you are using. And you will not have the interference that will affect your call the way we have just seen. Right. Yes, Dr. Na, let's take you again, quickly.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. I said that I'm speaking from Cologne, Germany, and I wanted to ask two questions. That's right. He has already answered that in case a voter misplaces a card, what happens? And also when a voter's name is missing, what does he do? So since my questions have been answered, I just want to add my voice to many who are calling for peaceful elections before, during, and after the general elections. And let us be patient with the process so that the best parliamentary and presidential candidates will win.
Thank you, Dr. Na. Thank you very much. If Saidu's line is correct, can we pick him now? Hello, Rashid. Unmute and let's hear you, Rashid.
Okay. Okay. Samson, thank you very much. My Samson, thank you very much.
All right, I'm sorry. Just pay attention. Please pay a lot of attention when you are joining and you are using the Zoom so you can see whatever we are doing. So you are mute and straight ahead. You go and ask your question. This is on air, so delay is not allowed. Thank you very much. So he asked two questions where he said the EC has answered them. Now, can we go to Regulation 45? Sub-Regulation 2 says, an election officer who is required to perform a function under these regulations but fails to perform that function commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 500 penalty units or a term of imprisonment of not more than 2 years or both, and shall for a period of 5 years from the date of expiration of the term of imprisonment be disqualified from being engaged as an election officer. So this is how serious it is for all of you, the election officers.
Yeah.
What you are supposed to do, if you don't do or you breach your duty, you are likely to be paying 6,000 Ghana cedis as a fine, or in addition to that, you may go to jail for up to 2 years, and after that, you will be banned for 5 years from having anything to do with elections in this country. Then, in addition to that, you will not be engaged by the Electoral Commission as its officer in future. Is that deterrent enough?
It should be. I think it should be. The challenge has been enforcement.
Right.
And, over the years, you see some kinds of violations, but you don't really get to hear about what happens to all these violating officials.
It looks like the Electoral Commission has listened to you on the masks.
Well, I think Joy also did a good job by throwing more light on this issue. So currently for voters in rural communities, they have good opportunity to get a mask and go and vote.
Right. So the Electoral Commission chairperson, Jean Mensah, just announced that they would make masks available for rural communities. So if you don't have one, you could receive one. But we have also educated you that you can innovate, be creative. You can use your handkerchief and cover your nose and your mouth. That's all the law requires. And the law says you use a face mask, face shield, or any face covering. Any face covering. So anything that can cover your face by covering your mouth and your nose completely, that's what the law says, you are safe, so that you don't lose your vote. Yes, so we are almost getting out of here. So those who had problems, Opokusa Akodia, let's pick yours. Opokusa Akodia, unmute and go ahead with your question. Or
okay, something. Those who have problems. I hear something.
Opokusa Akodia, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, something. I have a question, and my question is based on the wording of Article 49(3) of the 1992 Constitution, which was a congent issue at the 2013 election petition case. That's when the presiding officer fails to sign the undertaking before sending to the Electoral Commission, right? Many of the judges in the Supreme Court was of the position that when these presiding officers fail to sign, they were to annul all those votes at the polling stations. So my position is right now, if similar thing really happens again, are these votes going to be annulled? So that's my question.
Thank you, but as far as I can recall, the court has not said that if they do not sign, they will be annulled.
But
the court has said that the court required that there should be a way to punish people for not doing their work, but not making the voters suffer for their negligence. That's why we've subsequently made this law and provided sanctions
for poll officials,
for the electoral officers. So if you have a duty to perform and you fail to perform that duty, the voter will not be punished by making that vote invalid. You, the officer, will be punished. You could go to prison for 2 years. You may pay a fine of up to 6,000 in addition to that. You'll be disqualified from voting for 5 years, and you will never be engaged by the Electoral Commission as its officer. Dr. Na has already spoken. Dr. Na wants to come back. Hello, Doc. 1 minute, just in 30 seconds. Let's hear you.
One of them.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, please?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity again. What I want to add is that Ghana is indeed known for its democratic credentials. And those of us who are outside, and as I said, I'm presently in Cologne. I mean, it is when you move out of your country that you realize that your country is really important or it has a good name. So what I want to say is that those on the ground and who are going to choose the right parliamentary candidates and the presidential candidates who will then become official members of the next government, I will urge everybody to take this election very seriously.
Thank you very much. We have run out of time, Dr. Na. Thank you for your contribution once again. So, Mrs. Rhoda Oseafo, what will be your very final words in the next few seconds?
I think we've said quite a lot. We have a few moments to go, but to every voter out there, it's important that we exercise our mandate responsibly. So let's all do right And then to the thousands of polling officials who are going to man the various polling stations, they should know that they are going to undertake a very critical assignment on behalf of the nation. And this is how they should interpret their mandate. It's important that they discharge themselves. Whether this process will be credible or not, they are going to play a significant role. There are thousands of polling agents who are also going to be at various polling stations. They also must make sure that at all times they are abiding by the laws. Where there are grievances, where people think that they have certain concerns, we should all learn to channel our grievances through the correct procedures. You can report to the presiding officer. If you think the presiding officer is not the most appropriate channel for you, you can go beyond that. There is the returning officer, there is the district electoral officer, and even beyond that to the regional and to the national level. So we should make sure that at all times we are utilizing appropriate channels so that we do not create any unnecessary tension.
Right. So the presiding officer is there, then the returning officer is in charge of the constituency, you have the district electoral officer, and then the EC itself. And they have just put out numbers which we can reach out to them. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Rhoda. I'll say AFO team lead. Yeah, team lead at the CODEO Secretariat. Thank you very much, and we wish you a very successful work.
Thank you very much.
It's going to be very busy for you the whole of today, tomorrow, and after the elections. Thank you all so very much for joining us. This has been The Law. It's your legal light and health law. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini.